Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and this is my Week 6 battle for MPL, Major Pokemon League. We are going up against Frieslander and his Rotterdam Staraptors. Now, I do apologize that this is a day late, but I just got really behind schedule this week, so I wasn't able to get it in time. So, thanks for understanding. Hope you're still looking forward to the match. And a quick announcement before we hop on into it. I am going to be posting a video at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. It's going to be my 250 subscriber giveaway video. So if you're interested in a collection of Steam games, I recommend you check that out. It'll have some information on how to enter into the giveaway. And yeah, it should be really fun. And I want to thank all of you guys, of course, for all the support and for helping me get to 250. My goal for the year was to hit 300, and we are well on our way to that. So without further ado, let's hop on into this team matchup. We have, of course, our Crobat, which is a Choice Scarf set this week. We have an Expert Belt Greninja. We have a Swords Dance Protect Scavalier. We have Akaberry Metagross with Stealth Rock. We've got a Bulky DD Zard, and we've got a Sub-Seed Superior with Toxic. If you want more details on the EV spreads and all of that, make sure you go check out the team builder that went up on Thursday. Fries has brought Mega Lopunny, Tornadus T, Licky, Nidoqueen, Azumarill, and Lantern. So, definitely a lot of threats. Torn is probably the biggest threat of all of them. I'm really expecting Sap Sipper Azu, and so my Charizard and my Superior are really meant to take advantage of that. Lantern is his only flying resist, so I can keep that in mind. I can potentially use my Crobat to win in the late game if I've got sufficient chip on things like Licky and Nidoqueen. If I can get a Brox, that helps a lot too, because it will limit the survivability of Torn, and I can do like maybe 50% or so to Torn, if that works out. So in terms of leads, I am expecting his Lopunny lead. I'm going to lead Crobat because I want to, I have Inner Focus. I want him to, be afraid of clicking Fake Out, and I can just click U-turn and get the momentum immediately. He can go into whatever he wants to. So with that, let's click play and hop on into this battle. So let's hope that it works on out. We can catch this Lopunny, or at least, we're not going to catch it. We're not clicking Brave Bird turn 1, right? But we can catch the momentum, and that'll be very good. So Fries is going to be challenging me. I send out my Crobat, my Alucard, as I said, and he does lead with Jennifer, the Lopunny. So pretty much the situation that I wanted right on turn 1. He's got to know potentially that I'm Inner Focus, and so if he wants to click Fake Out, it's going to cost him. But he knows that, it's too big of a risk, so he just goes right on out into his Azu. And we go for U-turn. It does very little damage. I'm not sure if that confirms that he is a defensive set or not, but I'm still suspecting that he is. I'm going to go into my Serp, and he does show the leftovers, so he is definitely a defensive set. I'm going to go ahead and sub up on this thing. If he does choose to go for Whirlpool, Whirlpool doesn't actually trap if you have a substitute up. So he does go for that Whirlpool. If he tries to Perish Trap me here, it's not actually going to work. So that's quite nice. I can just easily go for a Toxic and begin to wear this thing down. And yeah, having this thing out of the way is such a boon for my Charizard. So I'm really motivated to try and make that happen. We go for the Toxic. We do land, which is pretty excellent. And he's going to be getting whittled down with time. Even if he wants to Perish Song here, like I said, I can very easily switch out when the time is right. And he does go for that Perish Song. So I'm feeling quite good about this situation. I don't know if he knows that Substitute protects me from being trapped from Whirlpool or not. But yeah, I just have to sit here, let this Azu take a little bit of damage, and let it get worn on down. And as you're about to see, the Perish count falls to 3. I'm going to click Toxic again. There's no point in clicking Leaf Storm or Sub or whatever else. He goes for Rest. And so this really puts a wrench in my plans, because now I can no longer beat this with my Superior, because obviously I cannot Toxic it. And it's good to know too, like, I might have an opportunity to set up T-Spikes later, but this Mon is going to not be affected by it. His Torn is already not affected by it. And he has Nidoqueen to potentially soak them up. So Toxic Spikes are looking a little bit less useful. I can go hard Gren, because he most likely is going to stay asleep. And I can potentially hit this thing up with Gunk Shot. But he's going to have to switch on out. In retrospect, I made a good play here. I went for Toxic Spikes because I knew he had to switch out. even though I was just saying, it's not that great versus his team, it's still better to have them than to not have them. There was no point in clicking any move there to hit the Azumarill because there's no way it was staying in. Lantern is a little bit of an issue for me, though, because he can easily go for the Volt Switch. I go into my Superior, and now he's just got the freest switch-in of all time into Torn. And again, no rocks to punish this. Not that Torn is punished really hard by rocks, like the fact that it has Regenerator obviously makes it quite a bit more durable. So I have to figure out what I'm switching in on a Hurricane. And my mon of choice is my Metagross. He makes a really smart play and goes for knockoff. So this really sucks because I lose my Occa Berry, and now I can't take the Heat Wave that's going to be incoming here. I still want to try and set up my rocks at some point, so I don't want to sack my Metagross. So I decided that my Zard is the best thing to switch into this because I have no other resist to Heat Wave, really, besides, I guess, Greninja. That doesn't really count. So I do luckily dodge it. From a Life Orb, Torn, as we see here, the combination of Heat Wave and Hurricane would not have knocked me out. So in a sense, it didn't matter, but I'm sure it would have been nice for him to have that chip. And the Hurricane's going to connect. It's going to do a chunk. It's going to confuse me. And he is definitely in range of Flare Blitz here. I clicked Flare Blitz to try and pop him, and we do hit ourselves in confusion. So the fact that this Torn is still alive is going to be such a thorn in our side throughout the entire game. And I do go into Metagross because I think I can probably roost up on something like Lantern. It potentially in the later part of the match, and it's still a good win con for me. Charizard is, so it wasn't really in my best interest to just let it go down right away. But my Metagross dodges a Hurricane. Doesn't really matter because he can just follow up with the Heat Wave, and he's gone for like 2 or 3 Hurricanes at this point. So one thing I am keeping in mind is that I can potentially stall him out of Hurricanes. That might be my best way of dealing with the Torn at this point, since I did not get that snipe with that Flare Blitz. But my strongest move to hit this thing really is the Gunk Shot. And it also helps me catch this Azu on the switch-in, so that's quite nice. I'm going to click it again. He really doesn't have anything to switch into it. Like, you'd have to be a crazy person to switch in Nidoqueen on the Gunk Shot here. But we are going to be able to hit the second Gunk Shot, so we have very, very good aim in this match. And we actually knock out the Azu, so that's looking really nice. If we can get that roost off with our Zard, he could potentially win the game, because nothing on his team can really take Flare Blitz. I am a sub DD set. I don't think I said that at the start, but yeah, I can just sub, and then he can't really hit me with things like Lantern all that well, assuming he's not invested. But anyway, he brings in the Lopunny, which of course is very good for revenge killing the Greninja that I have in here. Anticipating the high jump kick, I do go right on out into my Crobat, and he goes for the Substitute. So this would potentially be very scary, but it's really nice. There's some mind games going on here. He doesn't know that I am not Infiltrator. Like, he has to fear the Inner Focus because I did lead off with it, but I could be bluffing Inner Focus. I could have Infiltrator. So he actually has to switch out hard into this Lantern. I could have clicked U-turn, but, if he decided to stay in, betting on the fact that I was Inner Focus, I couldn't really afford to let that Lopunny sit in there and do what it needed to do, or do what it does best. So I hit this Lantern for quite a bit of damage. Luckily, having this thing hit with a T-Spike is very nice, but it's kind of the same situation as it was quite a few turns ago. I'm forced to go into my Serp, and he can go right on out into his Torn as he Volt Switches. Maybe I could have sacked Crobat, but sacking Crobat would have left me so vulnerable to Lopunny. I didn't think that was quite worth it. And in this situation, like, I've got nothing to switch in here. Superior would be nice, potentially, but with the Torn and the Lopunny in the game still, I think that Serp could get pretty easily revenge killed, and it's not really worth leaving it in here. I'm bringing my Crobat to go for a Brave Bird. This would have been a really nice opportunity to click U-turn as he pivots out, but the opportunity to get critical damage on that Torn, it was just too good to pass up. So I do go for Brave Bird here, and I figured, worst comes to worst, it probably 2-hit KOs something, and Lantern ends up being the mon that he brings in here. It does die to the Toxic Spikes, which is good. The only bad thing now is that I don't really have anything to roost up on with my Zard. And so as he brings back his Torn, it is at full HP, practically, I am just going to sack my Zard to this Tauren. So my win con at this point is somehow using the combination of Crobat and Greninja to finish off his team. Like, I don't have any setup sets. I don't have my Sub-Serp anymore to potentially put in work. Yeah, so I do go into my Crobat, and I think I'm just going to click Brave Bird here. No, this is, yeah, so I doubled out because I want to try and waste as many Hurricanes as I can. Whether this ended up being the right play or not, I'm not totally sure. I think if he ended up missing one of them, it would have been nice, even though he's already missed 2 Hurricanes throughout this match. So the odds of him missing, I guess, past events don't predict future events, but, in a given sequence, it's unlikely that he's going to continue to miss, if that makes sense. So I go into the Scavalier to potentially bait out more Hurricanes, but of course he goes for Heat Wave. And now that he seems committed to going for Heat Wave, I am just going to go into my Greninja, because we do resist, thankfully, and we can threaten this thing out, with our Ice move or whatever. I mean, we don't have an Ice move, but he doesn't really know that. I just end up going for Hydro Pump, because it can do pretty much the most amount of damage to anything that he's got. Like, if he chooses to switch into this Lopunny, as he does, it hits it for a very good chunk of damage. Like, I didn't want to try and go for Gunk Shot and then do less damage to Lopunny, or especially the Nidoqueen. And again, it would be a crazy thing for him to switch in Nidoqueen there, but it also does the most damage to Licky Licky. So, with this Lopunny in here, it is going to die to the Toxic Spikes on this following turn, which is very good. But it's a kind of a bummer that it didn't die while facing the Greninja, because now I'm forced to sack my Sir Gawain. Maybe Crobat was the play. It's hindsight's always 20/20, so it's hard for us to say. So it's definitely looking uphill here, but who knows? Anything could happen. I do go to my Greninja. I'm going to click Hydro Pump versus this thing just to hit it for the most amount of damage. We do hit it with a T-Spike, which is pretty nice. And we do connect our Hydro Pump. We're very lucky this game. We've connected on 2 Hydro Pumps, 2 Gunk Shots, whereas our opponent missed 2 Hurricanes and 1 Heat Wave. So that helped. Turns out that the Licky Licky has Facade and is able to blow us back. Now we're just left with our Crobat. And so he should be able to 2-shot us. And even if he's not, he can do a good chunk of damage to us with Recoil. And he can even go into his Nidoqueen or his Tauren after this first Brave Bird and preserve the 3-0 differential. And because I'm Choice, there's really nothing that I can do. Maybe if I was like a Roost Nasty Plot set or something like that, it could have worked out. But it was not meant to be. He just goes for the Facade. We do live on 6. Like I said, he can pretty easily preserve his Licky Licky here just by switching out and going into Nidoqueen to take the hit and preserving a 3-0 differential. He decides to leave in the Licky Licky. I can appreciate that. He's just happy to have the victory. And, of course, that is how it's going to work out for him. It's going to end up being a 2-0 loss for the Baltimore Oriolus this week. So, we really would have wished that we could have come out with a W. Fries is a good battler, but the fact of the matter is he's at the bottom of the conference, and if we're going to be competing against these playoff teams, this was kind of a game that we needed to win. So I'm glad that he won, though, because he deserves it, and he's a good content creator and things like that. The Flare Blitz miss, I don't think ended up ultimately mattering that much. Like, obviously it would have killed the Tauren, and Tauren applied immense amounts of pressure to my team, but he had a lot of sets. Like, it was actually a Curse Licky Licky that would have been extremely hard for me to break. I guess not even Sub-Serp can beat that. I don't have Taunt or anything like that, and Licky Licky's immune to Taunt anyway because it has Oblivious. There was Cosmic Power, Sub-Pass, Lopunny, which is bonkers. So he just had a lot of ways to beat me, even if he did not have his Tauren. So maybe the chances would have been a little bit better, but, I'm not going to lie to you guys and say, like, oh, well, we got hacked out of this match because we didn't kill the Tauren or anything like that. Like, it really wasn't the case. Fries just played great and prepped great. That Azu set with the rest really caught me off guard. I thought that Serp was going to be able to put in a lot more work, but it was not. Maybe the play was to go into Zard, and then I can go for +1. like go for sub, go for +1, because the defensive Azu, it still takes almost 50 from my Zard spread with Flare Blitz, and has no way to break my sub. It just can Perish Song me, and it'll eventually force me out, but I'll do a ton of damage in the meantime and take out many different mons on his team. So, you know, there's lots of ways we could have played the game a little bit better, but it just wasn't in the cards this week. So this upcoming week, for week 7, we are going up against Deebz, you know, coach of the Calgary Flame Wheels. You know, I love his intro of "What's up, Weebs? It's Deebz." He's a cool dude. He and I are similar in age, and so, you know, we've had some good conversations about, you know, being a working stiff and things like that. So really looking forward to battling him. We'll eventually battle him in the GBAD League as well. So a couple good matches with him coming up that I'm looking forward to. If you guys are looking forward to that as well, make sure you leave a like on the video and drop a sub to stay up to date on all of our latest Draft League action. And you can stay up to date on all of our other gaming content as well. So with that said, until the next time, I'll see you guys later.